Hi everyone. Welcome back, Music Corner. As always, I'm your host, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Sam Howell. I'm just trying to speak that one into existence. We'll see if it works out. And today we are ranking yet another discography, following up the White Stripes video that we did because another famous band who made a pretty big name for themselves in the 2000s just called it quits a few months ago. Of course, I'm talking about legendary French house music duo Daft Punk, who are responsible for so much of how the mainstream perceives house and dance music, and also incredibly influential into those genres, their undergrounds, and their mainstream success. Rarely do we see a band achieve such massive critical and commercial success in a genre like electronica in the way that Daft Punk did for basically their entire career as a duo. And yes, while they did only release 4 studio albums, and that's what we will be ranking today, and that's where I recommend that new fans start with the band. Once you have tackled these 4 records, absolutely dive into everything else the band ever did. Both of their live albums are incredible, some of the best live albums of all time, and of course their Tron soundtrack, it was like a match made in heaven, and they totally killed it. But yeah, I don't think I have any too controversial opinions about this band, like in the same way the 1 and 2 slots in my White Stripes video ended up being. For the most part, everybody pretty much has 1 and 4 the same on a list like this, and I think I'm going to be consistent with that. But that doesn't mean that it isn't worth talking about these records, what makes some of them better than others, and what makes this one of the best discographies of all time, despite its scant nature at just 4 albums. So yes, starting off with number 4, unsurprisingly, Daft Punk's 2005 album, Human After All, consistently ranked by critics and fans alike as the band's weakest outing, despite having some fan-favorite songs like Technologic and Robot Rock. It's really the deep cuts here that are so unfulfilling. The band's production style and production choices on this record and how they drifted away from some of the sounds of house music, some of the very blissful synth-pop-esque production you could find on earlier Daft Punk records. On here it is much more rock-influenced. It is a little harsher, it is a little edgier, but never in a way that really feels that satisfying, at least compared to their previous work, because what they were trying to do on here is write songs that appealed in largely the same way as their old work did, but with this new production style, with this quirk to their sound intact, they were just writing music that didn't sound as good. It was nowhere near as life-affirming and blissful as their previous record. So yeah, while I don't think this is a horrible record, and while there are definitely songs on here that I can recommend, I think some of the live versions of these tracks are far superior to the ones that appear on this album, and that it is by far the most inconsistent project in the band's discography. So at number 3, potentially controversial pick, but I don't think so. I'm going with the band's final album, 2013's Random Access Memories. Now, if you had asked me maybe 5 years ago to rank this discography, I think this would have been my second favorite. When this record came out, I was completely in awe of it. It was really the first time that I got to be super conscious and aware of and experience the release of a Daft Punk project, and I had become such a big fan of the group. My hype for this thing was extreme, and seeing the feature list with guys like Panda Bear and Julian Casablancas, Pharrell, and Nile Rodgers, and of course Giorgio Moroder, it was amazing. It was really, really exciting. I was really anticipating this thing, and I thought it was really good. In fact, I still think it's really good. I enjoy this record a lot. It made my best albums of the 2010s list. But in retrospect, I think this is a good, maybe even a great record, but not quite a revolutionary record. I really haven't seen this thing age and be influential in the same way as some other Daft Punk works have. It's crazy to think about the fact that it's been 8 years since this record came out, and I remember it so vividly, but it's not something that I see talked about a ton. It's not something that I see cited as an influence or as a reference point for artists and for new music coming out nearly as much as some other Daft Punk works have been. And that is not to say that there are not plenty of great tracks all over this thing. All of the features that I mentioned earlier really do deliver on what they promise, particularly on songs like Doing It Right, the mega hit Get Lucky, and Julian Casablancas' Instant Crush. Not to mention one of my favorite Daft Punk songs of all time, Contact, what I think may likely be one of the most influential tracks on the record, given the rise of a group like Public Service Broadcasting in its wake. And yeah, for this to be technically in the bottom half of a discography is crazy, only because the discography is so short and so consistent. I really like this record. I would almost go as far as to say that I love this record, and it really is a testament to how fantastic Daft Punk is to leave it at a place like this. So predictably, that means that number 2, my second favorite of Daft Punk's projects, is their debut album, 1998's Homework. And yes, I did say that a few years ago I may have underrated this thing, but it had less to do with this record and more to do with Random Access Memories, because I've always had a really, really strong appreciation for the incredibly direct approach that this album takes. To kind of transport ourselves back to a time, a Homework era time, where the likes of dance music, true dance music, dance floor house music, and techno were not nearly as comfortably ingratiated into the popular music that we were listening to, and it really was a bold artistic risk for Daft Punk to do what they did on Homework, and I'm surprised to this day that it paid off so well. I give a ton of credit to the critics and fans who were early adapters to this thing, because it is just fantastic. It has aged like a fine wine as the years go by and people continue to expand on the sounds of dance music. Almost all of those ties, in one way or another, work their way back to this era of Daft Punk's career. And it's just astonishing listening to Homework, sitting down and listening to this record and seeing how modern it feels, how refreshing it is. Incredible tracks like Defunct and Around the World that are just fantastic. They feel like the blueprint for great house and dance music. So yeah, if you're coming at this from the world of electronica and want maybe the purest, the most authentic electronica experience, you're probably already incredibly familiar with Homework. But if you're not, that is what Daft Punk is delivering on their debut project. It is incredible, one of the best dance and electronic records of the 90s, and I highly recommend it. And yes, I am not here to pull out the hot takes this time. I agree with just about everybody else on Earth in saying that Daft Punk's best album is their sophomore album, 2001's Discovery. What a masterpiece this record is. What an incredible, incredible junction of brilliant songwriting and vivid production, and these tracks that are just dance floor ready. They are groovy, they are extremely catchy, but they're so blissful and life affirming. It is impossible to find a place on Discovery where you should be frowning. The music is just so engaging, it's so vibrant, and as a concept, as an entire album, this thing is like a space age party that I never want to leave. There is so much you could say about Discovery, and so much that has been said about Discovery. Its influence within the world of both electronica and pop music, it's aged so well. I really think it is a generationally defining album for this genre, for these sounds. Daft Punk was just writing, they were producing, and they were assembling these songs at the height of their creativity, with what collaborators they did work with really, really hitting it out of the park. Romanthony on One More Time comes to mind. But it really is everything about this record, top to bottom. Just pick out just about any song here, whether or not it is the beautiful, infectious, harmonious sounds of tracks like Digital Love or Aerodynamic, or something more rigid and driving and meme-worthy in the way that a song like Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger is. Daft Punk is really running the gambit on all of the ways that songs can engage you and connect with you and make you dance and sing and feel amazing. I think when people who don't like Discovery hear it described like that, they almost think of it as being a shallow experience, merely intent on hugging the viewer until their problems go away. But musically, this thing is not falling short. In fact, it is shooting way, way over the bar that was established at the time, and it is kind of setting its own standard for how great music that sounds like this can really be. So yes, I would definitively say that Discovery is my favorite, and in my opinion, the best of all of Daft Punk's albums. And that's pretty much that. Like I said, if you've been going through and listening to these records, please give the live albums a shot. They are incredible, remarkable performances of many of the best songs from all four of these albums, all three of these albums, I guess. And I will be back before too long. We are rapidly approaching the halfway point of the year, the 1 year anniversary of this YouTube channel, and I will be once again covering 20 of the best albums that have come out in 2021 thus far. I am excited about it. I could potentially be back if I feel inspired with something before then, but at the very least I will see you at the end of this month with 20 great album recommendations, and beyond that, who knows? Check the blog for reviews, at least 3 every single week. I've talked about all of the big albums that have come out this year, and I will continue to do that for all the way well into the future. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, liking, reading the blog, following me on Instagram, etc., etc. It makes this way more fun, and I'm totally digging it.